just to let you know, my mental health has disappeared. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not feel well. I was always so confident with myself and felt sexy. Now I hate myself and I do not feel anything towards myself. Please accept my apologies. I've always loved this podcast and always wanted to be a part of it. So there's a female listener that we've had a couple times email in, and her emails have always been positive and things like that. So I don't really know. It was sad to read this email when we got it.
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to say.
took a real turn.
Yeah, it's me and Jay struggle with what would you say, like self-love? Is that what they call that? Like
Yeah, I would
appreciating
say
yourself
I'm
and
probably one of the most self-deprecating people you'd ever meet. Like, there's a lot of people that judge you as a person, but I think one of the worst traits I have, and Dan has it as well, is we judge ourselves worse than anyone else can judge ourselves. And I
mm-hmm.
think, like as I said earlier in the podcast, when I was saying about you not listening to podcasts and work and song music at work, if I was to be left with my own thoughts for that long, I crack up because I start worrying about shit that might never have happened or happened 10 years ago or whatever. And I think that's all related. And I think the only way you can really get over something like that is to seek professional help.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think really I should be seeing someone professionally, but money wise and fucking time wise, that isn't happening. But if I found myself getting worse than I am now, then I'd be forced
Yeah.
into that situation.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's every day is such an up and down. And like the worst thing about social media as well is that you go on it and there's so many different people saying so many different things. You don't know what fucking some people are like, get up and make your bed. That's the first, good step in your day and it makes your day better. And like all this sort of stuff. And it's like, fuck off. As I'm going to get up at fucking 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work. You don't give a fuck about, I come home, my bed's not made. I don't give a shit.
If you go on TikTok, you'd have 1,000 people telling you the right way to get fit, the right way to get good mental health, this, and that. No one's qualified in anything. Same way we're doing this podcast, we do the disclaimer for a reason. We're only giving our opinions. We're not telling you what to do.
No.
But when it comes down to like actually getting help with the situation, the one thing I would say, you could have a chemical imbalance, which I've noticed with myself and people around me. There's one person I'm really close with, which I won't name on the podcast for, I don't want to like bring his name up, but he had real highs and lows, like proper highs and lows. At one point we were thinking that he might be bipolar, but what it turned out being was his testosterone levels were so low that when he did something like went for a run or something, his testosterone shot right up and it affected his chemical balance in his brain. And he was getting like real mood swings from it.
All right.
And because his natural level was so low, when anything happened physical, he would be buzzing off it for like 3-4 days, and then he would go into like the pits of despair after that. And then what that's taken is he's gone to the doctors, gone to the GP. He's now on testosterone given him from the GP. He's now on, it's not an antidepressant, but it's a mood stabilizer type tablet.
Yeah.
And then he's on that for a course, for a 6-month course, and see how he is after that. Because it actually, what he thought it was mental health, when really it was physical problems happening in his body.
A lot of women as well. I think was it called cortisol levels?
Yeah.
Doesn't that affects like the way you feel about your body and things like that? It's fucking crazy. Like I was saying to my mum the other day, I was like, what happened to when you growing up and you just fucking ate and you got up and you went to work and you went to school and stuff like that? Like, there's an order now to fucking eat your food to make your body work better. And like, oh, you shouldn't eat anything sweet in the morning. It should be this and like fat so your glucose levels don't spike. And oh, when you shouldn't be eating this and you should be drinking that and you should be taking these vitamins and you should be taking these tablets. And like the amount of stretches that I see in one day that I'm supposed to do every single day, I wouldn't have any time to fucking work.
Exactly.
It's impossible.
I think what it is, especially in our day and age, is think about it this way: like when you had your what's it called? What's that thing last week that sent you mental?
Oh, jury duty.
Jury duty. When you had your jury duty, everyone in your life had an opinion on it.
Yeah.
Like the guys at work, me, your mum, Sabina, etc. We all had a different opinion on it. But then, like, when you're going through general life, you've got TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff, but all these people with thousands of opinions. The world's like a much bigger place now.
Yeah.
So if you are like we are, because our natural habitat now is now to look at our phones every 2 seconds and look at TikToks and fucking social media, we fit it. We, even if we're not doing it on purpose, we're letting a lot of that influence us.
Mm.
And it does massively, and that's how companies get their ways and stuff like that. And I think having all them extra opinions, they weren't around in the 90s and 80s, and like when people were had lived a little simpler lives. And as the years have gone on, and we have more and more intrusion into our day to day lives, that is why we get heavily influenced by things. And like Charlotte Charlotte is like one of the biggest people that buys all the TikTok shit and like buys all of that type of stuff because she's the type of person they can aim stuff at, and she'll
Mm.
buy it. And
Yeah.
like she'll do weight loss regimes based off of TikTok people and stuff like that, or social media, like celebrities doing certain things and stuff like that. So it's, instead of having just the 40 people in your day to day life opinion, like you did with your jury duty, someone's on our day to day basis, we've got thousands of people's opinions every day
Yeah.
coming through our brains, and then like we think, then why are we so fucked up? Like the way that we think we need to be is like a Kim Kardashian, which you're never going to achieve when you're a normal person. Look at the Kardashians before they had money. They were an
Mm.
average looking, pretty ugly family. Now they're all fucking rich and shit. They're like the most esteemed people, most looked up to people in the world. And
Yeah.
all they done was release a sex tape. Do you know what I mean? To
Mm.
propel themselves. And I think that is what's wrong in this world, but it's also what's good about this world as well. I think there is a lot of stuff that comes good from TikToks and Facebook and Instagram, but at the same time, that is a lot of our cause, and that is during COVID, everyone dove into the world of social media even further, and that's why people's mental health are rock bottom right now.
Yeah. I watched that Queer Eye on Netflix,
Yeah,
and there was a guy on there, and I can't remember who it was, but one of them was like, was it every morning you got to get up and you had like a whiteboard marker, and they were like, oh, you look in the mirror and write on the mirror 5 things that you like about yourself, like right early in the morning, to like, so you're not thinking negatively as soon as you get out of bed. And I was like, oh, that's a pretty good fucking.
that's a good idea,
Because some mornings I wake up and I just look at myself and I'm like, fuck you.
mate. Especially like I'm better this morning because I wasn't working today, but yesterday, because obviously I've been having stomach problems, which I haven't spoke about in the podcast, but I've been having stomach problems, and then I'm trying to get myself ready at 4 a.m. and I'm so aggressive, and all that
Mm,
aggression is aimed at myself. I'm like, why am I in a position that I'm having to wake up this fucking time in the morning?
yeah.
I'm looking at myself, and like I've got spots on my face and shit like that, just getting angrier and angrier. By the time I'm downstairs, I'm like a ball of emotions, and
Yeah.
this is all before I've left the house.
Yeah.
Do you know
Yep.
what I
Yep.
mean? And then you got to go in and listen to people's opinions that you don't give a shit about something that you know that you're right about and someone else is wrong about, but they don't listen. I don't know. You become progressively more um, self what was the word? I had the word
Self-deprecating.
right. Self-deprecating. I had it right at first, and then I forgot it. You become more and more self-deprecating, and then you can go more and more into yourself. But I think the only way to improve on that is to do the small help methods, like Dan said. Maybe go to the GP. They can even sign you up to like some counselling for a few weeks for a few free sessions if they really think you need it.
Yeah.
See how that goes.
Yeah. But I mean, in terms of like this podcast and things like that, like anyone that takes the time to email in means a lot to us. And like whether you, and whether you feel down and stuff like that, we always appreciate. We don't know any of you guys, but I mean, we've never had. I don't think we've had one negative email. No one, not even a joke email or anything like that. Everything's always been so supportive. So we always give that back. And we're always here for a little chat if you need it. Obviously, we can't give you professional help, which is why if you're really that low, you should go, see someone. But if you just need a chat or you need to vent or anything like that, you're already emailing in. You know what I mean? I make jokes about long emails, but you can make them as long as you want. I'm still going to read it.
Yeah.
It's not,
and if you want it to be kept offline and us not to actually put it on the show, then we're willing to do that as well to an extent, as long as it's not a forever chain. But we're willing to do that.
Yeah. You just got to. I think the social media. We keep saying social media, but if you put any sort of negative thing on social media, everyone just latches on and just wrecks you a new hole. That's what I hate. That's why we keep everything secret and like we don't release any names because no one needs any backlash or anything like that. Like you need a space where you can ask and talk and be open and not get ridiculed for it. And,
I always have this conversation with Charlotte because Charlotte does it. She like every other month she would decide to come off one of the social medias to give herself a bit of a break from it.
Yeah,
and I always make this point, which I think a lot of people need to remember, is what you're seeing of people's lives on social media is not their lives. If you were to look at my Facebook, you would think I spend all my time out in other countries drinking and eating, or I'm like out doing like certain days out with family, or I'm doing this and that. Like all these really positive things. They're not seeing the times that I'm grinding out a fucking 60-hour week, or doing all the editing for this, or we're doing all the other shit. Do you know what I mean? There's loads of shit that goes on in people's lives that they're not publicising, and I think people will just latch on thinking other people's lives are better than theirs, but no, they're not necessarily.
Yeah,
I've known people that have look like they're the happiest couple in the world on Facebook, and then they've split up.
Yeah, there was a few on April Fools that got me. And I'm just like, fuck off. And then the next day they're like April Fools. I'm like, that's such a shit fucking bastards. But yeah, stay strong. We're one massive family. We appreciate all your emails that you send in, and we hope that you're feeling better because this was a couple of weeks ago. I have obviously replied. But there are people out there you can speak to. And I'm sure you have friends or family that's the hardest thing, right? Is that your friends and family try to help, but you never listen. But they are trying to help. And let's end this episode off on a very serious, but every now and again we need a serious chat, Jay.